Okay, so this is a short video about tyre gluing for people that are just getting into racing RC and maybe have previously used pre-glued tyres but you want to glue your own. This is what I do. It's probably different to what everyone else does, or everyone has their own way of doing it, but I find this works well, and specifically for Astro tyres, because I find that with Astro tyres, because you use them for a lot more time over more races, they tend to last longer, and you might be using them for 2 or 3 different events. I tend to go belt and braces with gluing these, and also making sure that the glue sticks properly. So this is what I do, and if you follow this, then hopefully your tyres will stay connected to your wheels. So I've got a load of stuff in front of me here, which is what I use. So you've got your inserts. So we've got some Schumacher inserts, some of the silver spirals, which are the go-to tyre for wet Astro. And we've got some rims here. I always go for something fairly sort of solid, something that's going to last, because the lightweight rims that you can get out there, which really are designed, I think, for dirt tyres, tend to don't take a beating as well. So these are just TP Pros or T Pro rims, but I think Schumacher do some similar ones, and I just find these work well for me. So I've got the tyres, the inserts and the rims, got some glue. The new concept, which I got from RPRC, is cyanacrylate glue. It's the thin one, the ultra thin I think it is actually. So it means it's easier, I think, to use because it wicks more easily around the tyre. Got some Proline tyre gluing bands to help keep the tyre clamped onto the rim when you're gluing it. Got the hole punch to make a couple of holes in the tyres before you fit them on. This is to prevent the tyres from ballooning up. And then trusty Dremel. I'll show you what that's for in a minute. Got some cleaner here, which is called Simple Green, which is I think quite good for removing the residue on the new tyres from the mold release agent. Bit of the old blue tissue paper, or kitchen towel, whatever you're going to use, and that's basically it. So first things first, get the tyres out of the bag. That's Charlie. Hello, Charlie.
Hello.
Okay, so we've got a nice pair of new silver spirals, and we've got some of the Schumacher. These are the medium inserts. Got those. So the first thing I do is clean off the mold release agent from the rims, from the tyres, sorry. So I just get a bit of the old Simple Green, spray it on, and then just wipe around the gluing surface on the tyre, just to make sure that I've removed any mold release agent. Keep spraying a bit more on to keep it on. Now the next thing is quite important, and when you see the guys on YouTube doing this, you don't always see them do this, and I think it's important, is to actually make sure there's no residue from the detergent you use, because you can use, frankly, a bit of washing up liquid, anything that's going to degrease effectively the tyre. I do suggest you avoid using acetone, because ultimately acetone does actually weaken super glue. So whilst you might think there's none left after you've done it, I don't think it's a good idea to use acetone. So just a bit of detergent, which is what this effectively is, cleaner, and remove as much as you can of the mold release agent on these tyres. Once you've done this, don't just leave them to dry out, actually go and rinse under a tap. Yeah, so get off, you can feel it's quite greasy from the detergent, so take that out to the sink, go and rinse it off under hot water, turn the tyre inside out to make it easier to kind of dry it off afterwards. Make sure you've got it all off. And it just so happens that I've already done this to a couple more tyres, which are over here. So I've got 2 tyres here which are prepped, cleaned and ready for the next stage. So the next stage for me is taking the Dremel, and I've got a standard sanding drum on this. Just set it about 10. Run it round the inside of the rim where you're going to glue. And the idea is you're creating a slight roughness to the surface that will help the glue wick and give it a mechanical bond. So do that on both sides. Like so. Dremels are ideal for this. Okay, and when you're done, you'll notice that the surface has got a slight roughness to it, where you've effectively removed the top layer and kind of given it a slightly rough surface. So do that to both tyres. Don't worry too much, you're not going to do any damage like this, because if you have the Dremel set the right speed, you just let it follow the inside of the tyre around, so you can't get carried away too much. And before you go any further, it's just worth getting a dry piece of towel and just making sure there's no bits left hanging on the surface there, because obviously they'll be loose and won't help you at all. They'll have the opposite effect. Okay, and the last thing we don't want to do to this tyre before we finish on that part is put a couple of holes into it. Don't go too big, just a couple of small holes that allow the tyre, allow air in to stop the tyre from ballooning. I tend to go into the middle, on the seam and in between the spikes. So you can see there I've created a small hole, and then do one, and then do one on the opposite end, opposite side. Some people do these on the sides, and some people do them in the middle. I don't know if it makes much of a difference really. The only thing that I do believe isn't a good idea is to, as you can see with these rims, you've actually got a couple of indents here for putting holes in to the actual rims, but I think the problem with that is that over time water and dirt get in through these holes and they start to abrade the inserts. So a lot of advice out there to suggest that the best place to put your holes is into the actual tyres themselves and not the rims. Okay, so next stage is to glue these tyres on. What I will do is these rims have a gluing surface, so they're quite rough on that, but I'm going to just belt and braces again, give them a quick whip round with the Dremel. Right, so now I've prepped the rims and the wheels with a bit of dremeling. Managed to get a bit of dust on my wheels, which isn't a problem, but I'm going to clean that off. What I want to do next, and I'll show you on one tyre here, is to actually glue them on. So first things first, you want to get the insert into the tyre. So you want to do that and try and get it seated in there as nice as you can. So just feed it in and then just try and settle it into place. These inserts are a bit chunkier than some of the other harder inserts that are used on mini pins, so they just take a little bit of time to get seated in. And maybe just a bit of the old like that, so you've got the insert in there. Next, the easiest way to get the rim in. Now, just one important note with spirals before I do this. Spirals are unusual in that you can actually mount them two ways. So if you look at the tyre, you've got the spikes on one side are spaced further apart than on the other. Generally speaking, people mount these in a non-aggressive way. So you have the wider spaced spikes to the outside of the rim and the close ones on the inside. If you do mount it the other way, it means you've got more spikes on the outer edge of the rim, so it'll be more aggressive and possibly introduce more grip roll. So you're better off, I think, with the wider spaced, but that'll be up to you. So rim goes in. And then what you want to make sure of is that you're not pinching the insert underneath the gluing surface. So you kind of lift it all the way around and just check and just push it back in again, so you get the rim nice and cleanly onto the rubber of the tyre, and the rubber of the tyre is not caught underneath or pinching the insert. Okay, so you do that on both sides. You can have to manipulate these around a bit. Again, Astro tyres are much sort of more heavy duty than dirt tyres, so this is always a bit more of an effort with Astro tyres. And then basically what you're looking to do here is make sure that everything's square and connected correctly, and that you haven't got bits bulging out anywhere that are then, when you finish gluing, going to introduce a wobbly wheel. So as you can see now, that's nicely onto the rim. So the next stage is gluing. So with gluing, you need to have a little bit of paper towel handy just in case you get any spilling around. It's worth having this kind of wedged up a bit, otherwise it tends to get stuck when you try and wipe anything off. So you've got a piece ready like that. And then effectively, before you start, I tend to do this before I glue, put the glue band on. You're running it around sort of the edge here so that it helps to squeeze the tyre onto the rim, and whilst the glue is going off, then you want to make sure you can just peel back the tyre a little bit like that with your thumb, and as you do that, you can then obviously see the gluing surface going back to the rim there. So the idea is we want to get glue coated evenly throughout. This is my preferred option, is to use an ultra thin glue which flows very cleanly around the rim and will wick. So you just peel back with your thumb. Don't go too mad here, because if you peel back too far it might dislocate where the tyre connects to the rim. Then just literally bit by bit, gently squeezing the glue, and as you release the tyre back onto the rim, you'll see that the glue kind of starts to come out a little bit. That means you've got enough in there. Be careful you don't start sticking your hand to the reel like I nearly did then. And you kind of just use the nozzle to help you spread it around till eventually you meet up. So I've now glued that piece. Now there's a bit of excess glue here, so I'm just literally going to wipe around the tyre there. You will end up, no matter how hard you try, with a little bit of glue on the actual wheel. It's not a problem. It won't last long. Once you start racing with the tyre, you'll soon get rid of that. But if you wipe it off, be quick. Don't leave the towel stuck on top of it, otherwise you'll end up with bits of towel on your rim, on your wheel. So that's glued. Now don't assume it's going to go off straight away. It takes a while, so leave it. I've got 4 bands, so I tend to do 4 tyres at a time. So I'll arrange, get everything ready, then glue 4 tyres, then leave those for half an hour for the glue to go off, then take off the glue band, flip it over and do the other side. So if you do it this way, I'm pretty much guarantee you should find your tyres will stay connected to the rims for the life of the tyre, which is what you're after. Okay, so if you don't want to do any of this, at Brookthorpe we have pre-glued spirals from RPRC, Schumacher spirals that are supplied by RPRC along with our OptiFuel in our shop. And if you don't want to have the hassle, or if you're trackside and you've got no, your wheels are looking a bit worse for wear, then just pop in and see us, because we normally have a set of spirals and a set of yellow mini pins pre-mounted on white wheels ready to be used. However, if you want to glue your own, this is what I suggest you do. Thank you.